You open Instagram and it looks like everyone's already rich, already winning, already fulfilled. But then you meet a real millionaire and he's quiet, calm, simple. That's the shift. The ones who truly earn say less. In this video, I'll explain why those who really make money rarely talk about it, and why their silence isn't a lack of confidence, it's the core of their strength. Here's the paradox: people with real wealth, financial, internal, or both, don't talk about it. They're not posing in convertibles, not filming in front of rented yachts, not shouting, "I'm a winner." Their silence says more than any motivational post. And it's not because they're hiding something, it's because they've stopped trying to prove anything. In a world where success is measured by views and attention, modesty feels almost suspicious. But it's not. It's the most reliable sign of depth. People who actually build themselves don't advertise the process. They move quietly. They improve daily. No show, no noise, just rhythm and execution. And one day when the world has moved on to something else, they're still there, like a mountain, unshaken, built to last. This video isn't about theories. It's about experience. I'll show you how I learned to speak less and listen more. How I discovered that money doesn't flow to the loudest voice, it flows to the most consistent action. And how real power doesn't announce itself. It just operates. If you're here to be seen, this won't help you. But if you're ready to be solid, to become real, this is for you. And at the end of this video, I'll show you how to turn silence into your new wealth with clear, actionable steps. If that already shifted how you think, like it now and keep going. My mentor told me wealth isn't in your wallet, it's in the person who earns it. When I first heard that, I didn't get it. I was young, driven, focused on appearance. I wanted status, a new car, a standing ovation. But he didn't smile. He just added, if you're rich enough on the inside, you won't have to say it. People will know. He was right. Real wealth doesn't rush, and it doesn't make noise. It shows up for those who work patiently, quietly for years. It belongs to those who observe before they act. To those who invest in who they're becoming, not just how they're seen. Look around you. Today's version of success is more performance than principle. Discipline is out. Drama is in. TikTok doesn't build wealth, but early mornings do. So do daily habits. So does giving up what's easy for what lasts. When I hit bottom, no money, no direction, no plan, I stopped talking. I listened to others, to myself. And in that silence, I saw what mattered. Silence is not passive. It's active self-diagnosis. It reveals what you've ignored. It tells you what you're actually made of. I once sat in the back of a hall. A famous millionaire was on stage. The crowd loved him. But my eyes landed on a man in the audience. No fanfare, no expression, but his presence solid. Later I found out he was the one who funded the whole event. That's when I understood, the one with real power doesn't need the spotlight. Because real power doesn't seek validation. It builds quietly until results speak for themselves. That was the turning point. I stopped performing. I started strengthening. I woke up earlier. I read more. I saved money in silence. No bragging, no show, just work. And slowly, without announcement, everything changed. Stability, clarity, peace, and eventually, yes, money. Money doesn't go where there's noise. It flows towards stability. It avoids drama. It escapes emotional chaos. Think of it like a bird. It won't land on a person flailing around, but it will come to the one who sits still, clear, grounded, focused. Once I was offered a deal, fast profit, loud marketing, a flash campaign. I declined. Too noisy, too shallow, too unstable. Loud music covers weakness. Silence reveals substance. Look at the entrepreneurs who last. They're not counting cash on camera. They're building. They're protecting their family. They're tending gardens. Silence is part of their strategy. You don't need applause. You need results. And results don't need rehearsal, they need depth. So here's the shift. Stop trying to look like someone. Become someone. Presence doesn't talk. It operates. And if you build the right presence, you won't have to explain anything. Now ask yourself, what are you building in silence? What habits are you repeating without recognition? What part of you is growing quietly without needing proof? Because that's where your real capital is growing. Your mindset, your patterns, your identity. And if you speak too soon, if you reveal the fruit before it's ripe, you lose the entire harvest. That's not all. In the next section, I'll show how silence not only built my financial foundation, it also built my reputation. And I didn't have to say a single word. A private event. No cameras, no stage lights, just chairs in a circle and the kind of silence where everything counts. I was invited to speak to a closed group of serious entrepreneurs. No public image, no crowd to perform for. Just people who were already doing the work. After I finished speaking, a man walked up to me. Gray hair, firm eyes, strong calloused hands. He looked at me and said, "I've been watching you for 10 years. I wasn't interested in what you said. I was watching what you didn't say. That's what told me everything." Then he added, that is wealth. That moment hit different, because it wasn't applause, it was precision. A man who truly sees doesn't focus on what you display. He watches what you carry, and what you carry is built in silence. We live in a time where silence is suspicious. If you don't post about your trip, did it happen? If you don't show the watch, do you even have one? That mindset is backward. That's the actor's mindset. But in real life, the question isn't who's on camera. It's who's actually directing the outcome. Results don't need editing. They need consistency. I didn't build my first business by going viral. I built it by staying consistent while others chased attention. While people filmed their productive days, I was reading. While they shouted about new opportunities, I studied finance. Quietly. I didn't spend on brand image, I spent on skill. I wasn't preparing for likes, I was preparing for leverage. When the moment came to move, I didn't need hype. I needed precision, and I had it. That was my second internal shift. Stop trying to prove you're someone. Start becoming someone worth following, whether anyone's watching or not. What is real success? It's not buying a car you can't maintain. It's not filming yourself in a hotel you stayed in for 48 hours. Real success is walking past the need to show off and just building. Not for attention, but because you know the value of what you're becoming. Because what's real doesn't need practice, it doesn't need validation. It lives inside you long before anyone else sees it. I remember a young guy came up to me after a seminar. He was hooked on motivational videos and asked Mr. Rohn, how do I create the image of a successful man? I looked at him and said, don't create an image, create a person. Because when the lights go out, the image disappears. The person is what remains. Silence is not absence, it's a filter. It exposes what's actually there. And most people aren't ready to look, because silence shows you whether there's substance or just a costume. And if you've been building yourself for real, that silence becomes magnetic. People feel it, not because you're loud, but because you're centered. Let me give you a clear test. Back in my early years, I had a habit of telling everyone about my next move. I thought motivation came from talking. I thought telling the world held me accountable. But every time I spoke, energy leaked. The more I talked, the less I did. My mentor noticed. He pulled me aside and said, true motivation is action, not speech. Spend your energy on steps, not sentences. That was the moment I stopped announcing. I started executing. I began setting goals in silence, working in silence, achieving in silence. And here's what happened. People started asking me what I was doing because something was changing. They saw it. They felt it. And I didn't have to explain anything. Results have a voice, and that voice doesn't need a mic. So here's your checkpoint. What does your silence say about you? Does it say I'm building? Or does it reveal that you've been dreaming out loud but doing nothing? Silence is also a test of discipline. Because when there's no feedback, no validation, no recognition, your real reason shows up. If you keep going anyway without the applause, you're on the right path. Because you're building from conviction, not reaction. Let's make it practical. What is your silence routine? Do you have 1 hour a day where you think clearly without input? No screens, no performance, no noise, just you and your direction. That's not a soft habit, that's a strategic necessity. It's where clarity gets built. It's where self-correction happens. It's where bad ideas die before they cost you. The most stable people I know, the real builders, all share one thing. They stay calm under pressure. They don't react to every chart, every rumor, every trend. They analyze, they prepare, they wait, then they act. Once, clean, sharp, final. They've rehearsed this skill in silence. Now here's the hard question. If no one saw what you're doing, would you still do it? If no one liked, followed, or responded, would you still walk the same path? Because that's where real self-trust is forged. And that's what builds reputations that don't need promotion. In the next section, I'll show how silence gave me more than money. It gave me freedom, the kind that no spotlight can offer. The kind that doesn't perform. It just leads. Real freedom isn't loud, it's quiet. You see the word everywhere on shirts and captions tattooed into skin. But most people using it don't understand it. Because real freedom isn't about being able to do anything. It's about no longer needing to prove anything. That's where silence comes in. After decades of working on myself on stage, in business, in solitude, I stopped needing to be seen. I stopped chasing recognition. I stopped explaining. I started acting. Silently, cleanly, without performance. That's when I found it, the space where real wealth lives. The wealth of presence. The wealth of peace. I used to live in a modest house. Nothing flashy. No flex. My neighbor, on the other hand, had a new car every season. Parties. Loud music. Constant display. Everything about his life was designed to be seen. One night he said to me, Jim, I envy your silence. That told me everything. He had money but no peace. I had silence, and that gave me more than money ever could. Silence does something most people fear. It reveals the truth. Just like clear water shows you the bottom of the lake, silence shows you what's inside. If there's chaos, it rises. If there's depth, it glows. That's why silence is uncomfortable for people who haven't built anything within themselves, because silence doesn't let you hide. But if you've been doing the internal work, silence becomes power. It disciplines. It filters. It clarifies. Most people think freedom is a flexible schedule. It's not. Freedom is when you stop needing applause, when you stop reacting to judgment, when your actions no longer depend on what others see. That's the real independence, and it's the greatest wealth I've gained. If someone told me today you'll never be seen again, but you can quietly keep building, I'd take that deal. Because that's where my strength is, in motion, without the noise. Here's what I've learned. Silence isn't weakness, it's a decision. The strongest people don't shout when they win. They stay quiet because they've trained their identity. They know who they are. They don't need to sell it. Silence is like water in a dam. It holds massive potential without flooding the surface. And when it's time, it becomes movement, not before. Let me give you one more story. I was speaking at an event in Los Angeles. During the break, a young man approached me. Expensive watch, impressive suit, confident posture. He said, "I want to be like you, but how do you stay grounded when the whole world wants a show?" I looked at him and said, "The world wants a show until crisis hits. Then it looks for a leader." That's the truth. When things fall apart, people stop listening to noise. They look for direction, and they follow the one who's been consistent, not flashy, not loud, just clear. That's when silence becomes authority. I've seen this play out. Loud starters burn out in months. The quiet ones, the ones who worked for 10 years on a single project, they're the ones who build something real. Not because of likes, because of impact. When I mentor leaders today, I tell them this. Your most effective strategy is depth, and depth begins in silence. That's where plans are shaped. That's where decisions are made. That's where identity is refined. It's not in performance. It's in the space where you build while no one's watching. Let me share one more personal moment. When my mentor passed away, I didn't speak. I didn't post. I didn't gather people around me. I sat alone. No phone, no music, just silence. And in that silence, I remembered. I realized legacy doesn't live in sound. It lives in presence. When I'm gone, I don't want people to remember my words. I want them to remember the weight I carried without needing to say anything. Because silence is not the absence of voice, it's the presence of power. Now, if you're still here, something in you already knows this. Maybe you're tired of noise. Maybe you're building something quietly. Maybe you're realizing that what's real never shouts. If so, you're already on the right track. Because the road to real wealth always runs through silence. But this isn't the end. Next, I'll show you how to use silence as a daily practice, not just a mindset, but a real behavioral tool that earns you something more valuable than money, stability, clarity, and earned respect. It's time to pause, not the video, you. Because this segment isn't about adding more. It's about stripping everything down until only what matters is left. We've talked about silence as strength. Now it's time to turn it inward. No audience, no validation, no noise, just you and 5 direct questions. Here's the test. Question 1. How calmly do you respond to someone else's success without jealousy, without comparison? When you see someone win, can you stay grounded? Because inner silence means this. Their win doesn't shake your focus. You stay in your lane, like the ocean wide enough for all boats to rise. Rate yourself 1 to 10, no overthinking. Question 2. How often do you take action without announcing it? Are you a builder or a performer? If you speak before you act, you're still in performance mode. If you act and then let the results speak, you've crossed the threshold. Score it. Be honest. Question 3. How confident are you when no one notices your work? This is where most people quit. When there's no feedback, no praise, only the task. If you keep going anyway, you're building from identity, not ego. That's real strength. Question 4. Do you have a daily quiet ritual? 10 minutes, no screen, no noise, no stimulation, just you and your thinking. It could be journaling, a walk, sitting in silence. But without this, you're not anchoring yourself. If you have it, protect it. If you don't, start it today. Question 5. How willing are you to remain invisible while building something meaningful? This is the hardest one. Everyone wants the outcome, but very few are willing to sit in the obscurity it takes to earn it. Score that one, then reflect. These questions aren't a personality test. They're a mirror. You don't need to post your answers, you need to live them. Go back later, write them out, face them clearly. But even thinking through them now, that's the first shift. Now, if this video gave you one clear answer, hit like. It helps the algorithm do what it's designed for, distribute clarity. If you're serious about building real discipline and internal freedom, subscribe, because the next videos go deeper. And if one word stood out, silence, balance, presence, freedom, drop it in the comments. Sometimes a single word unlocks the next step. Take a breath, then let it go. In the final segment, we close the loop. This is where noise ends and your real work begins. This is where the noise stops, not the video, your internal chatter. This is the moment things fall into place. We've walked through the surface distractions. Now we're at the core. You don't need to be louder. You need to be aligned. You've seen what happens when people chase attention. It burns fast, dies quickly, and leaves nothing. But when you build from silence, results become permanent. True strength is quiet. Self-respect is built in private. Discipline is proven without a stage. The world doesn't need another broadcast. It needs individuals who are unshakable with or without applause. If you took anything from this video, take this. You don't need to shout to be heard. You need to be real and repeat the right thing daily. Wisdom doesn't live stream. It lives in repetition, in restraint, in knowing when to say nothing and keep building. Don't be afraid to move slowly. Be afraid to stop, especially when you finally know what matters. And only in silence can you hear what matters. If this video clarified something inside, you share it with someone else who's also building quietly. From here on out, more silence, more strength, more of your real self. Because real wealth always starts within.